Hi, everyone. Welcome to Black in Focus. I'm Karen Toulon here at Bloomberg's World Headquarters in New York. Today, we're talking fitness, your financial fitness, and why it's a good time to kind of assess the shape you're in. And we're joined by Krystal Barker Buissereth, who is joining us from New York as well. Krystal, so you're the managing director and head of financial wellness at Morgan Stanley at Work. And you say that people cite money as one of their biggest stresses, no matter how much money they earn. We're so excited that you're here today. But first, Krystal, I want to start off with a really basic question. That is, what exactly do you do as the head of financial wellness?
Great, and thanks so much, Karen, for having me, and really glad to be part of this series. So you're exactly right. Financial wellness, what is that? Similar to health wellness, where you go into a doctor and you get a checkup. My goal here is to give people financial checkups. So we work with companies around the globe in order to help their employees improve their overall financial well-being. And we can do that in a number of different ways, from education to a digital experience, but also giving them access to advisors.
Wow. And we'll come back to why organizations are paying attention to this a little bit later. But first, you shared with me some data, and some of that data is that 62% of workers are worried that they don't have enough money put away for retirement. But what we want to talk about today is a little bit more fundamental, and that is that for some people, they're just not worried about retirement. They're worried that they'll make it till the summer. They're worried about just making it till next week. And a lot of that has to do with COVID, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you're exactly right. And I'm smiling because people say, how in the world can I think about the long-term trajectory when I'm worried about my day-to-day? And COVID-19 is so fascinating because it really is about, we've really shown that there's been the have and the have-nots. And there's some people who have done incredibly well. You still have your jobs. They've been able to save more because they're not going out as much, renovate their homes and so forth. But then there's others who have not fared as well. Whether it has to be, maybe I had to take a step back from work to take care of my children or my parents, or maybe I've been furloughed on my job or laid off or have a loss of income. But no matter where you are along the spectrum, what has been very clear, similar to 2008, when many of us woke up and said, gosh, I was not prepared for that. Let me go rethink my finances. Same thing is happening here on the back of COVID-19. It's been a wake-up call for many Americans to say, am I really prepared? Am I prepared for retirement? Am I prepared if I lose my job? How do I make sure that I can keep the lights on, continue to pay the bills, or leave a legacy wherever you may be? It's really been a wake-up call for many people.
And you say wake up call. I mean, when I was thinking about talking with you today, I was thinking about, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm morbid, but those moments when you're lying in bed and you just can't go to sleep because you're just kind of, you're worried, or you're at work and you just, you kind of just stare off into space because, again, even though things might be okay, maybe your industry is shifting. So you're okay right now, but you kind of have that sense, gosh, my 5-year plan, I have a feeling it's now maybe a 2-year plan. I need to do some thinking. And you would tell me, I have a feeling you would tell me to snap out of it. Do something. Don't just worry about it. You can act, there's things that people can do. And this work is personal to you, which I think is kind of interesting. So very quickly, you come from a family where wellness is a thing with your parents. Can you just tell me about that a little bit? Because I think it's interesting how people kind of end up in the careers that they're in.
No, and that's a fantastic question, a great place for us to start here. Many people are influenced by their parents, and I'm certainly one of those. I was raised by a single mother, but my dad had a tremendous impact on me growing up. In fact, he was and still is a small business consultant and lender. And I saw firsthand how loans that he gave to these small businesses enabled communities to grow. They brought new jobs, and this is my hometown in Arkansas. So I saw firsthand the importance of capital to help small businesses. And then you look at my mom, and the influence she had as a nurse, working very hard. She went back and invested in her education to get her graduate degree, put my sister and I on a very nice trajectory. And so I saw both of those influences come together, the role capital could play, not just in communities, but in individual circumstances. And that informed my own career path, as I want to democratize financial services and make that process easier. Today, I have the best job in the world. I get to work with nurses, frontline employees, new graduates, mid-level and executive level individuals who are all trying to navigate their own money through the workplace. And we are able to do that through so many different ways. And I'm glad to be able to take all these influences and really help people just like where I grew up and where I came from.
And you would probably start off, I'm guessing, telling everyone the first bit of advice, which is probably that they're not alone, no matter whether you're a frontline worker. Most people aren't as smart as they think that they should be. Most people aren't as organized as they want to be about their financial well-being, right? So that it's okay to kind of admit I should be more organized. I should know a little bit more than I currently know, right? Is that true?
Oh, Karen, you brought up a good point here, and which is why I'm so excited to be here. You are not alone. In fact, and it's pretty sad statistic, if there have been number of financial literacy scores, and if all of us took it, the average American would actually fail at this test. And so you're certainly not alone. And you see that in a lot of the statistics around too. In that when we look at only 40% of people do not have 3 months of savings as a buffer. Half of us are sitting up at night worried about our own finances. And it does not disappear just because you're making more money or just because you're highly educated or high Ivy League degrees. It does not disappear. In fact, I was actually speaking to the team just last week about, it was a mid-level executive. He's working at a Fortune 500 company, very busy. So similar to a lot of the viewers today, very busy, wasn't thinking about his own wealth creation. When we sat down, we realized and uncovered $8,000 in tax savings through a couple of very simple steps. One, he wasn't maximizing his 401k account. He was a highly educated individual. He works for Fortune 500 and wasn't maximizing 401k because he was so busy, didn't realize that. There were other benefits of his company, from HSAs to children's accounts, healthcare accounts, and others that he just wasn't taking advantage of. And we were able to uncover $8,000 of annual changes. So you're not alone. This executive was not alone, but there is help out there. And it's no better month to get started, because it is April is Financial Literacy Month. So our goal here is to make sure that we get the word out so individuals can know. Go ahead and figure out what you have and understand the help that's available to you.
Right. So part of that is, though, you got to identify some basics. Like basics would be, identify some goals. I mean, most people should kind of, it's worthwhile to sit down, take a couple of Saturdays, take a couple of afternoons to figure out your goals, right? Have long-term goals, and I like to think, live and eat, right? What are your longer term goals and your more immediate goals, right? That's something that you may want to think about. And then after that, you talked about so many things. You threw out 401k, you talked about retirement, you talked about tax savings. What are the major buckets? You talked about emergency fund. So let's kind of go through it. Perhaps let's start off with emergency fund, because COVID happened, right? So many people found themselves in different kind of situations. What is the rule on emergency fund? How much should you really have socked away?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I'm going to get there, and I want to paint a journey though, so that people can understand how to get there. I liken what we do to Google Maps. Before we can talk and diagnose what people need, we need to assess first where people are. So if I'm trying to get to a destination, I have to figure out, where am I today? What all do I have at my disposal? Then I can plan out, okay, where am I going? And what would I like to achieve? And then through the process of financial planning, I can find you the best route. So similarly, before we jump into how much emergency savings you should have, or how much am I saving enough, or what are my other goals, I always start from the basis of figure out where you are today. But to answer your question specifically about emergency savings, a lot of people come to me for financial advice, or companies, or this is primarily what companies really ask us for. How do you design a program that's going to work? And there's a couple of key ingredients. Everyone's circumstances are going to be different, but baking cake, no matter what cake, you're going to have your flour, your sugar, your butter. When it comes to emergency savings, this is what I recommend in terms of the professionals out there. Is emergency savings, what are they? This is a buffer in case anything goes wrong. You lose a job, you have COVID-19 means you may have additional health expenses. This is a buffer. Many people say, how much should I have? We recommend 3 to 6 months of savings. Now, here's an example. How do you know 3 or 6 months? How do you fit on that continuum? Well, in 2008, 2009, my roommate and I, we both worked on Wall Street. My roommate lost her job. Because it was Wall Street and because of the financial crisis, she was among thousands of individuals who lost their job in New York City. It wasn't easy finding another one. It took her a little over 4.5 months. But because she had that emergency savings account, she was able to coast. I mean, she wasn't living well, but she was able to cover her basics. She could cover her rent. She put food on the table, and she was able to ride it out until she found another job. That is the value of an emergency savings account. And coming out of 2020, what we found, a lot of Americans did not have enough. They undershot how much should be in here. So the first thing you should do is make sure you do that assessment. How much do I need? Do I have a right buffer where I sit? If I lost my job today, how long do I think I could get another job here? And that can really help you assess how much you need in that emergency savings account.
And so figuring out where you are, what does that really mean? Does that mean I'm trying to figure out, if I have a family, if I have kids, am I thinking about, am I going to have to pay for college in X amount of years? Am I going to need to move my home in a couple of years? Do I have parents that I may need to take care of? Do I anticipate a huge shift in my profession? Is that all kind of figuring out where you are and then where you want to be? Paint that picture for me.
Yes, and it could actually be even more basic than that. The first piece of information, which I'm actually shocked that people don't have, is they don't even know what they have access to today. So before you try to figure out what my circumstances are and how far I need to go, it's today, look at all your assets across all the different accounts that you have. What is actually there? And so I liken it to, we just heard a story or talked about a story from this woman who lost everything in Hurricane Irma. It was devastating to her and to her family. We actually did our stock plan administration, actually called her up and said, did you know you had options, equities that's sitting here waiting for you? And she burst out into tears because she said, I did not know and realize I had this benefit, this source of cash that was desperately needed in this time. So similar to others, not all of us will have the benefit of having pots of money that are uncovered, but similar to that executive beforehand, we uncovered $8,000. I think the first thing to start out is say, what are all my benefits that I have at work? Look at all the accounts I have today. It's surprising. Some people forget about old 401k accounts from the previous employer. Do you have anything in your children's names? Think about your family. Get all that inventory first, so you can understand where you're starting today. And then Karen, you're right. Then I can think about, okay, this is where I am today. Where am I trying to go? Right? I want to make sure that my family is taken care of. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean you want to help someone go to college? Or does that mean you want to give them a little assistance but not pay for their full college? You want to help nieces and nephews? And so forth. You can start to plan along those lines.
Wow. And it's interesting you mentioned nieces and nephews, because that is part of what a lot of families are also going through as well, especially those who've managed to survive these difficult times. They are helping family members and kind of figuring out what those needs may be. So you've kind of gone through figuring out what you might need, figuring out what the needs might be of your broader family. Where do you go for help? Clearly, your company provides support. Other companies provide support as well. But there are a host of other places as well: professional organizations, sororities, fraternities. A lot of places have these types of financial planning, for financial advice services. And they've been ramping them up. Why now? Why all this activity around financial wellness?
Yes. So I'll answer your first question too, where people can go, and then why now, because they really play nicely with each other. On the first component of where can people go, if there's one thing the audience takes back today, if you're part of your check trends for employee benefits. I'm every day how there's many offers very benefits in what in addition to this 401k or 301k plan they have. Maybe preparation services or breathing,
We're having audio problems with you, Krystal. So I'm going to just stop there for a second and just I have a sense, I know what you're saying is, I think you're going to be a huge proponent of making sure that people check where they are right now. If they are working, if they have an employer, check in with that employer or check in with that professional organization to see what they offer and take full advantage of whatever is available in-house. And often those are available through maybe through believe it or not, through a HR function or through a diversity and inclusion office. Those services are available, and I know that's something that you're going to be a huge proponent of. Any other advice? And hopefully your audio will be back with us.
Yes. Are you hearing me clearly?
Oh, you're still cutting out. I think that we may have lost you, so I think we're going to have to call it there, unless there's something we can do on our end. So just to recap, really sit down and think about where you are now, and take stock of everything that you can. Take a couple of afternoons and go through everything methodically. What you hold, what's in your name, look at everything that you have, all of your financial holdings, and make sure that you understand what you have, and then sit down and prioritize where you want to go, what your objectives are, whether you think you want to move, switch careers, whether you think that your job is going to be changing, whether someone's going to be leaving employment, children off to school, children bouncing back, parents to take care of, and come up with a sense of where you want to head to. And then look at the resources that might be available through your company or through any professional organizations that you might have access to. So many of them provide the similar type of workshops and services that are available for free that you can tap into and start thinking about where you want to go with your financial life. So I think we're just going to have to leave it there because unfortunately we lost your audio. But Krystal Barker, been great talking with you from Morgan Stanley at Work. And next week, ahead of the Oscars and amid ongoing calls for equality, we're going to be looking at films, the characters that exist in films today and how they're crafted, what they tell them about ourselves. We're going to be talking with Terrell McCraney. He's an Oscar and Peabody winning writer of Moonlight and David Makes Man. And we're going to talk with him about why some of the films that we're seeing today are a little bit more intimate, and where the action really is in conversation and not car crashes. So tune in for that. Until then, from Black in Focus, I'm Karen Toulon, and this is Bloomberg. Thank you, Krystal. Take care.